Hey everybody, and welcome to the Chill Zone, where Don Gillis condenses the facts of working with Opteon low GWP refrigerants. Today is a special occasion. Don's going to have a guest for us to introduce you to. Now, we're super excited for that. My name is Chris Piles, and I'm just joining Don today to help out. And thanks to each of you guys for taking the time to join us. We know your time is valuable, and you guys have a lot of different things going on, so we're actually honored for you guys to be here. We appreciate it. The transition to lower GWP Opteon refrigerants is here, and now is the time to get ready for your customers' questions. So that's what we're doing here. We're all just trying to make sure that we've got the information, so when our customers ask you guys will have an answer on the tip of your tongue. You'll know it. We're going to have some questions for you guys as we go through this, just to make sure that the training's working out. And occasionally also, if you guys do have questions, there's a questions box down in the corner. Just feel free to type it on in. We'll address it. A lot of this conversation is, this event is going to have some live Q&A at the end of it. So with that, this may be your first time here, or you might be a regular, but either way, just grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and take some notes while Don Gillis compresses all of this juicy information right into your head. All right, take it away, Don.
Hey, thanks a lot, Chris. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Chill Zone. Today, as Chris said, we're excited. We've got Bobby Dean from Tech Support, and he's going to be going over some of the most common tech questions that get on our tech line. So what the hope is you'll see these questions, and maybe it's something you address at the branches, but we're kind of hoping to get feedback from you to see if they look similar to you. So that's the idea today. So technical support and training resources. Let's get started. I learned how to put a drum roll in. So first of all, we're going to go over, like I said, tech support calls with Bobby. And secondly, we're going to go over what's the most common calls. So Bob's going to talk about that kind of stuff and what the answers are and how he handles those. I think we got 4 most common ones that come in. And then somewhere in the middle there, I'm going to walk you through our training page. And I'll explain that a little bit later. But I want to make it easy peasy so it's more user friendly for you and get more comfortable. And we want to show some of the highlights of what's on our page that you can get to for free and anytime you want to. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Bobby Dean. So Bobby is a technical service senior specialist in the thermal and specialized solutions business at Chemours. Bob joined Chemours in 2021. He holds a bachelor's in chemical engineering from Penn State University. And then Bobby's also a technical support lead for Opteon refrigerants, focusing primarily on 454B or R454B, the adoption. He also handles the Tech hotline and email for Freon and the Opteon refrigerant inquiries. So without further ado, Bobby, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you guys having me on here today. So like Don said, I've been with Chemours for a little bit now, about coming up on 4 years. And what today's going to be about is handling the tech line, hotline, if you will, and what kind of common questions we get, or I get from the folks out in the field, the technicians, or even the wholesalers, distributors like you guys. Will come and see from your customers, right? So if you want to go on to the next slide, Doc, we can get right into it.
Yep. So let's talk about the top 4 tech support calls. I'm going to go through these one by one, and I'm going to tee them up for Bobby, each one of these, and then we'll have the answer to follow. So what refrigerants can place R22 in air conditioning applications? Bobby, explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so the most frequently asked questions or topics around that I get for the last 1.5 to 2 years that I've been manning this hotline are around R22 retrofits, right? Because R22 systems have been out there for a while. They're ending their lifespan, but they're in good working systems. You can still get it across the finish line with retrofitting to different refrigerants, right? So the refrigerants that can replace R22 in air conditioning specific applications, there are going to be 3 of them that Chemours offers. It's going to be MO99 or R438A, New 22B or R422B, and also 407C. So those three products are all Chemours products that we offer and can be used in R22 air conditioning applications.
It just blows me away that the number one, I mean, let that sink in a little bit. The number one tech call is R22 refrigerant and the drop-ins, because even, you know, I've been out of the field 9 years now, and I remember putting new 22N Mo99 many years ago. So that's good stuff. That was really surprising to me. So the second question, how much charge is required when using one of the R22 replacements, Bobby? Can you elaborate on that?
Yep. So kind of going off when I do get a typical call that asks about, you know, what can I use to replace it? The very next follow-up question is commonly, well, how much is it? Is it a 1-to-1 charge? For example, if I have a 10-pound R22 system, is it going to be 10 pounds of Mo99, U22B, or 407C? And really the answer is most likely it's going to level out around 95% of the original 22 charge. But what we recommend doing is we recommend charging to roughly 85% of that R22 charge, and then you can throttle in to get up to that 95% charge, because really it's just easier to add in charge than it is to remove charge, right? So that's what we recommend, and all this information can be found on our website, as Don will go into later. Under our training page, you can find all these retrofit guidelines for these R22 replacements.
Perfect. And so do we need to replace the O-rings when we're retrofitting this, Bobby?
Yeah, this is another big question. And if you do not replace the O-rings, so the answer is yes, you do want to replace the O-rings when retrofitting from R22. And the reason is because when you retrofit from R22 and the O-rings actually will swell. R22 likes to penetrate those O-rings, give it a nice positive seal when operating. But as soon as you remove the R22 to go and replace with a new refrigerant, now that O-ring is going to shrink because the R22 is going to degas, and that will create future leak points. So if you go ahead and change the O-rings while retrofitting, before you introduce the new gas to the system, you're going to save yourself some time, some money, some investment in the future, because you're going to stop those leak points ahead of time.
Yeah, so I personally can relate with this. I took it on the chin along with a lot of other technicians back in the day, and I remember it vividly. And the word on the streets was that the refrigerant was actually eating the O-rings, when in fact they were shrinking. And as Bobby said, so very interesting. We found that out later, but I remember that really well. A lot of leaks at first, so definitely a big one there. And can Mo99, new 22, 407C, can it be topped off after a leak, Bobby?
Yep. So the short and sweet answer to this is yes. After a leak, you can still top off with any of those three refrigerants.
Perfect. All right. Keep in mind, everyone that's listening in too, these questions we got here for Bobby are going to be the poll questions coming down the road here. So make sure you're jotting them down if you would. So fact topic number 2, retrofits of refrigerant. Can Mo99 or new 22 be used to replace R22 in refrigeration applications? Not air conditioning, but refrigeration. Bobby?
Right. Yep. That's a great question, Don. So this is another big topic. So same thing, sticking with retrofits, but more so on the refrigeration side. So think medium temp walk-in coolers, low temp freezers. Now we're talking about R22 being used in those refrigeration applications. Can Mo99 and new 22B be used? Technically, yes, they can be. They are SNAP approved to be used, but we do offer a better refrigerant to replace that R22. And that would be Opteon XP40 or R449A. It offers better capacity and energy efficiency than Mo99 new 22B. Again, all of this information can be found on our retrofit guidelines, specifically for 449A to R22, or excuse me, R22 to R449A retrofits.
Yeah, big game changer there. Used a lot out there in the field, I know, especially coming up with the 404A. Actually, it's the next question. What can I use to replace 404A or 507 in refrigeration systems, Bobby?
Yep, another great question, another common question, right? So here it's going to be the same answer as the one above, right? So you can actually use Opteon XP40 or 449A to replace your 404A or 507 refrigeration systems. And again, I'm going to reiterate this because it is important, is that all these retrofit guidelines can be found on our website. Now, we do have one specifically for 404A, and we do have one specifically for 22. So they're going to be a little bit different because of the different pressures, different TXV element changes that you might have to take into consideration, as well as different O-ring characteristics. So in this case, with 404 or 507, you wouldn't necessarily need to change the O-rings out like you would with R22. Different type of chemistry there. It's not chlorinated with 404A and 507, whereas R22 is. So that's the reason for those differences in the O-rings. And then there's some other slight differences, but again, all that information can be found on those retrofit guidelines.
Yeah, good stuff. So can XP40 or R449A, this question comes in highly, can it be topped off? We know it's a 400 series, so it's more than likely a blend, and is. So Bobby, what's your thought on that?
Right, yep, just like the other ones on the last slide, just like MO99, just like new 22B, 407C, we at Chemours said, yes, you can top off any of the 400 series refrigerants after a leak.
Perfect. Well, that's great stuff there. We got round one, 2 topics out of the way. We've got 2 more coming up, but before we go there, we've got a chill zone pull time question. Chris?
All righty. Let's launch this thing up. How much charge is required? Oh, I can't read the whole thing. Give me a sec. When using one of the R22 replacements. So that's an interesting question. We were just kind of going over that now. How much charge is required when using one of the R22 replacements? Okay, so please select one. Is it 85%, 100%, 90%, or none of the above? So right now we've got a lot of people responding in, which is awesome. And it looks like, oh, we've got a really interesting split here, Don and Bobby. So far what it looks like is 45% of folks are saying it's 85%. We're getting a mixed bag. 8% say 100%, 17% are saying that it's 90%, and 33% are saying none of the above. The results are still coming in though. It's really an interesting mix.
Good one. Yeah. We
Alrighty.
talked about this morning, Bobby and I, we was hoping it wasn't too difficult, but let's see what happens.
Oh, yep. So the results came in. 45%, 46% said 85%, and 31% said none of the above. And then there was a couple that said 90 and a couple that said 100.
Bobby, you want to touch on that a little bit? We talked about it earlier.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. I think it's a little bit of a tricky question too, because in my response, I did mention that 85%, right? But what I was saying with that 85% is that's where you want to start at. So if you have, for example, a 10-pound system of R22, you might want to start at 8.5 pounds of whichever of the refrigerants you choose, right? Let's say you go with MO99. 8.5 pounds of MO99 will get you to a working system. And then really what you want to do is optimize your superheater subcooling from there by adding in the extra increments, throttling it in as you see fit. And what we've found at Chemours is that most of the time, 95% is where that's going to level out of the R22 charge. So you might add an additional extra pound or so from that 8.5 example. So the correct answer is none of the above, 95%, but it was a little bit of a trick question because I did talk about 85% at one point in my explanation.
Yeah, and we didn't discuss this before, so it was just by the luck that I put 85 in there and actually forgot the percentage, but I could have grabbed anything. But so if you chose 85 or D, none of the above, the intention was D, none of the above. It should have been 95%, but good stuff. Paying attention out there. All right. Let's go. Top 4 tech support calls continued. And fact topic number 3, oil management. This is a great one, big one we talked about in my prior life. How can I fix oil return issues when using new 22 or MO99 in larger systems? Long pipe runs or evaporators significantly lower than condensers. This is a great one.
Yeah, this is one that I get asked a lot too, and really the answer is using some amount of POE oil because usually your R22 systems are going to come with mineral oil, be using mineral oil, and while new 22B and MO99 are fully compatible with mineral oil, they're actually more compatible with POE oil. So in this case, when you do have the long pipe runs or evaporators lower than condensers, it does help with oil return to add in some POE oil. And you can add in about 20% increments of that POE oil to help with that oil return.
Great, good stuff. Yeah, I know we spoke a lot about this at Copeland, my years there training. Big one, oil return. So, Bobby, what about when I'm using compressor design to draw oil from the bottom of the oil sump pump or sump?
Yep, very similar question to the one above. So you're going to have a little bit differences here, and really the big difference is now you want to do a full change out to POE oil because the new 22B and MO99 have the highest miscibility with that POE oil. A complete changeover to that, not 20% increments, but a full 100% change out to POE is recommended for those types of compressors that draw oil from the bottom of the sump.
Awesome. This is great. Now, if you're keeping a score at home, if you want to put in the chat box there and let us know, hey, I'm seeing this 1, 2, 3 topics also. This is or tell us what your number one is at the branch. I'd be curious to know. The next one, the fourth most common topic is what connections required for the Opteon XL41 454B 20-pound cylinders. So those would be the smaller ones on your service trucks. Bobby?
Yep. So this is going to be the last topic for the day. The majority of the questions that come in are all around retrofits, but now as the transition to lower GWP and to A2Ls is happening, we're getting a lot of calls around XL41 or R454B, right? And one of them being what connection is required. So it's going to be a CGA 164 connection. That's the technical connection for it. It's really just a left-hand to right-hand thread adapter, and they should be readily available. So Don, if you actually want to highlight the one below that to the bottom right, that one is going to be the one
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. Yep. That one is going to be the one that technicians and contractors will need to buy from local distributor supply houses like yourselves. So if you guys have these readily stocked and available, that's great. If you don't, I'd recommend getting these so that your customers can readily purchase these.
Yeah, this is good stuff. Sorry about circling the wrong one. I got ahead of myself a little bit. I was reading the second question, but yeah, this is great. And I know a lot of tool manufacturers now. I see a lot of these now. They've got their own special adapters now with a flexible hose on it, so you can get into maybe little tighter spaces and what have you. So it's good stuff. This is more the generic, but it's the most popular for sure. So let's go on to the second one. Similar question here. We're focused on the top tank there, Bobby.
Yep. Yeah. So the connection for the larger cylinders, the 90 pounds, the half tons and ton tanks, if you guys are familiar working with these larger tanks, it's going to be a CGA 670 connection, which is basically the same thing as a 164. Now it's just going from the larger adapter for the left hand down to another left hand adapter. So there's going to be a little bit of caveat here, so that if you circle down what you were circling earlier, there's actually going to need to be that CGA 164 connection is going to have to adapt to the CGA 670. So in that specific case, you're going to need both, right? So you can see the stainless steel part of it as well as the brass part of it, right? So you're going to have those two connections. Now, there are works about getting a CGA 670 left hand to right hand connection. They're not available yet as far as I'm concerned, but those are coming. They may be coming soon, right? So then you can bypass having to buy the CGA 164 connection for the larger tanks. You can just have one adapter instead of having to buy two.
Yeah, and just to add something from the field, these are most of you know, I'm sure you already sell them, but on larger tanks, which I've used before in the past, this is kind of common with the adapter like this. Very, very common on commercial stuff. So last but not least, can XL41 be topped off after a leak? So R454B, we're talking about, it is a blend. Can it be topped off?
Yep, short and sweet. The answer is yes, as you have kind of understood this trend going forward throughout this whole presentation. It's been, every refrigerant blend that we've talked about here can be topped off after a leak, and it's no different with R454B as well.
Awesome. Great job, Bobby. Appreciate it. So it looks like we have another chill zone poll question. Chris?
All righty, nice. Let's see. So what's the most common tech support call that Chemours receives? So of all the ones that we've talked about so far, what's the most common tech support call that we get? Is it about flammability of 454B? Is it about retrofitting R22 systems? Is it about, do A2L refrigerants have propane in them? Or the last one, how to clean up after a compressor burnout? So of all the calls that we get in from tech support, it was kind of a surprising answer if you remember it. It was a very, it's an interesting one. Let's see how everyone's voting. We're getting a lot of good votes in. Let's see. Wow, I like these scores coming in. Of all the most common tech support calls that Chemours receives, which is the topic? Well, I would say we've got the majority of people came in and voted. 7% of them say how flammable is 454B. That's the most common one. 79% say retrofitting R22 systems, and 14% are saying that do A2L refrigerants have propane in them. So that's a mixed bag right there.
Yeah, you would think the 454B flammable and the propane would be the top. That would have been my guess too, to be quite honest with you. I'm talking about out in the field about A2Ls is such a hot topic, but Bobby has informed us that the actual answer is retrofitting R22 systems. If you remember correctly, we started off with that right away, and I had even mentioned that's shocking to me a little bit. I mean, I guess just because of how long R22 has been out there, but retrofitting, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and Donna, I'd like to add too. I think with the transition happening, this year and next year and in the few years after that, with all the A2Ls, I expect that A or even C to really come into play here, right? So as technicians and contractors get more familiar with the A2Ls, they're going to have a lot more questions that come in to the tech line. So I expect the retrofitting of R22 calls to go down and all the A2Ls, 454B calls to go up. So that's how I see that trend moving from a contractor technician perspective.
Yeah, right on. I couldn't agree with you more. I think we all agree with you there. We see the R454B flying off the shelves right now. A lot of folks are already out of the 410A equipment and they're moving into R454B. Everybody's hands-on now. Almost everyone is seeing the equipment out in the field. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. And let us know if that's what you're seeing also. Actually, I have a question at the end to ask you about that. So, so thanks a lot, Bobby. Now I'm going to walk through our website. Now I wanted to do this live and pull it up and actually do it, walk through the website, but I was concerned that it might drop out. So I did this in still photos by PowerPoint, but I'm going to kind of explain to you what I'm doing here. So when you go to our Opteon page, first of all, that's the QR code there, and for our training page, if you don't know, or go to opteon.com /training, also will get you there. Okay, but what you'll see is this will be the top of the opening page, and at the very top you'll see this bar here, and if you hit sales support, so you'll have a drop down over here that you can pick that, or you can just the team behind the scenes that does all the heavy lifting, Shelly and Nikki and all them, they made this much easier. So what's going to happen now is if you scroll this down, they have it all on the same page, and what you'll see next is on-demand training. This will be the 1 minute chill zone, 1 minute chill zone. And then what we have here on the second one on the bottom is what we're doing right now. Our webinars, our monthly webinars get released after 24 hours of showing them live. So that's all there for you, recorded. They're all banked there for you. So you can grab these anytime you want to, which is really cool. And I mean, these are great to slide into your own PowerPoint if you're doing training at your own establishment. So I do this a lot with other people's videos and pop them in there when they're done so well. So good stuff there. The next name you'll see as you scroll down will be Dr. Chuck Allgood. Dr. Chuck Allgood is in, I believe, the 6th season, if I'm not mistaken. These are about 4 to 8 minute little did you know fun fact type things, will you? I always explain them in the classroom as kind of easy to digest in between service calls if you're waiting on a call. And basically what this is again, 4 or 5 minutes or whatever of little things that we take from all of our PowerPoints of things we talk about for hours. So it's little snippets of that, real quick, easy to get along down the road afterwards, and very good stuff. Stuff you can share anytime you want to. Again, These can be used in your own training PowerPoints if you'd like. I know some of our sales teams pop one of these in every once in a while. So really, really good stuff there. And as you scroll on down, and then you're going to get into technical documents and resources. And this is the part I really, really like most of all. And this is where I spend a lot of time at making posts on LinkedIn and what have you, just taking this information. So I'm going to choose one of these here, and I'm highlighting refrigerant piping handbook. And this is something Bobby worked on recently in the last year, right, Bobby?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So what you're going to see when you push on that arrow right here is what's going to pop up is the first part of it's going to show you the front of the handbook. And then it's going to show you a diagram like this. These are just a few things that I snagged. There's a lot more here, but I just want to show you the kind of things you can find in there that's very, very helpful. I posted this link on LinkedIn when Bobby first released it, or we introduced it on our website. And I don't know how many times it was shared. It was amazing. But this is the old handbook from DuPont days, correct, Bobby? And you just re-upped it and brought new information in.
Yeah, that's correct. So we had a piping handbook similar to this one from DuPont a while ago. I believe it was sometime in the 90s, maybe even before that. And we wanted to update it with all the new refrigerants that are coming out. So all the A2Ls, even some of the older refrigerants like R449A that weren't in the previous handbook because it hadn't been developed yet. So that was kind of the goal here, was just to get a fresher look at the same kind of information that the handbook in the past, gave out.
Very, very popular. Wanted to show you where it was at because it had all kinds of stuff, design goals, suction line must, discharge line must, liquid line must. I mean, these are real easy to read, self-explanatory things. And I still get emails all the time from stuff I did years ago on just how to trap and piping and riser sizes and what have you. But capacity versus line pressure drop, all kinds of things. This is all in that handbook, by the way. Here's the effects of height on pressure as far as your risers. And, depending on the manufacturer, each one's going to have a different spec. I know at Emerson or Copeland, we had a 20-foot rise, and some others might want a 10-foot rise. It depends on the application, what refrigerant you're working with. But really, really good stuff, as you can see. Some other technical documents and resources. I'm going to come back to this page again. This time I'm just going to pick out something simple, the Opteon pressure temperature guide for air conditioning. And this is really neat. Again, free to download. It's colored like this, PDF. You can print it out, put it on the tables in front of your students. Real nice and easy stuff to work with. Again, there's your tech-to-tech, comores.com tech support, all that good stuff. And then your QR code. Everything is free on our website. That's huge. It really is. That not everybody does that. So we're making it available. We want to make you aware of it. Great information here. Refrigerant replacement guide. There's another one there. So some of the stuff that Bobby was talking about with the R449, for example, refrigerant solutions for retrofits, it goes down. R22 replacements for AC and heat pumps. R22 or 407A and F for refrigeration, and so on and so forth. Really good stuff. It has a comment area over here, tells you exactly what the classification is, the GWP, and the compatibility with oil, which is a big one. But all kinds of good stuff there. Refrigerant solutions on new equipment, as Bobby mentioned earlier. So now we've added the A2L stuff, some of the retrofits like 513A, and other things that we're using now for other refrigerants we've used in the past. So the other thing you'll see on this is our trusted partners and resources. So we've taken a link to all of these. I tested all of these out about a month or two ago, and direct line to all of these. Okay, so if you touch on the arrows there, you can go to Hardy, ACA, AHRI, ESCO, NATE, RSES, just anywhere you want to go to. So this is kind of a one-stop shop, if you will, a turnkey operation. I really like this feature. It surprised me when I saw it on there, and kudos to our team for putting this on there. It's really, because we have good relationships with all these folks here. So one of the last things you'll see is tech support and more. So you can contact Opteon refrigeration team, or if you need tech support, that would be Bobby's area of expertise. You hit on that arrow and there he is. You'll see tech support and more. You can come in here and see what you can get as far as contacting the 1-800 number, emailing, anything like that. If you were to go down to the bottom of this page, it says contact from below. So you would click on that contact from below, and then you'd fill this out and send any questions you have in if it's not earth shattering or you don't need to get on the tech support line. And Bobby's really good about responding back right away and getting back to you. So that's just some of the things that I wanted to highlight on our webpage. And I can't take any credit for it. It's done by all the folks in the back that don't get seen, that do all the heavy lifting. So kudos to them and the team for collaborating on this and putting in some good stuff. This is amazing to me how far this has come along. So with that said, it looks like we have another Chill Zone poll question. Chris?
All right, very good. Question for you guys. Does your location sell 454B equipment now? So is your location already putting stuff in the warehouse, stocking it up and moving it out the door? Or are you guys still in the transition where you're going through the rest of your 410A equipment? So right now the poll question is, does your location sell 454B equipment? It's a really good question now because it is March. We are in the transition, and you get kind of a mix across the country. There's a lot of folks that are still, postponing the transition, and some folks that are really embracing it already. So it is a good question. Also, speaking of questions, while those results are still coming in, if you guys do have any questions, use the question box down there. Send us something. You know what I mean? We're gonna have an opportunity to answer a lot of your questions live. So if you do see questions come in, if you do have questions, please put them in the box. All right, Don and Bobby, the results that have come in for this poll question are 83% of people are saying yes, and 23% of people are saying no. Oh, that just changed, 77 and 23. Yeah, so that's a good mix over there, but a lot of people are.
So we will see a shift in technical support questions, Bobby, for sure. And I assumed it was going to be high because of just from listening to others out in the field when we're traveling. So that's good stuff. Very, very good to know. I forgot to ask you, Bobby, you travel a lot. I know you recently came back from one of our OEMs out on a job site to troubleshoot some stuff. When you're out, I've been asked this before, and Chris and I have talked about, when you're out traveling like that, do you have a staple of a food you like when you sit down at the restaurant?
Yeah, Don, that's a great question. So I do a good bit of traveling for the company, whether it is to attend a conference or a trade show or to support any of our customers at their plant sites. But really my go-to food is any type of Mexican food, right? And something quick and easy, something like a Moe's or a Chipotle, or a Qdoba, anything of that nature is my go-to.
Awesome, that's good. I would have guessed something else, but Chris, what was yours anymore, if you don't mind?
Oh, it's those roasted oysters that they have over in Louisiana. We get some Parmesan cheese on top of them.
Yeah.
Those are the best.
Yeah, those are good for sure. Mine's always been chili or macaroni and cheese. For some reason I always have to try it, even though my diet says I shouldn't. But good stuff. If you have a favorite food, put it in the chat box. Let us know what you're eating out there. So last but not least, we're going to get to the open it up for questions. But just to kind of come back full circle here with the Chemours resources and support. Again, we've already walked through this. We have plenty of information out there. If you have any questions, please contact us about this. We want to make your life easier. This stuff is here for you. We see a lot of traction getting this direction. There's a lot of travel coming through the website now, and we really, really like that. We just don't have enough boots on the ground to get everybody trained. This is a great way to do it. So again, here's your tech support stuff, tech to tech, the 1-800 number. There's Bobby's smiling face again, and check out all the literature that's out there. And I barely touched anything. So if you have any questions, again, pop them in the chat or send us an email afterwards. But it looks like we're going to move on to our pizza party drawing right now, Chris.
Oh, very, very nice. All right, team. Our random name selector went through and pulled out a name The person's name is Gary Warner. Gary Warner's over with Duncan Supply, and I think he's up in Indianapolis. So Gary Warner, you're our this month's winner of the pizza party.
Yay. Congratulations, Gary. I know Duncan Supply really, really well.
Oh, nice. Good deal.
Yeah. Very good company out there. So congratulations, Gary. And these are obviously the three winners we had before, Angela, Mike, and Rick in the first 3 months. So we'll add Gary's name to that from Duncan Supply. And then we're going to open it up to the poll questions, Chris.
All righty. Well, we do have a good amount of questions that are coming in. Let's see. You know what? Let me just back up real quick. Gary, just look out for an email from me. I'll send you an email directly, and then it'll just have some information on there, okay? All right. So the questions that we have received in, there's 2 here from Tim Chamberlain. Let's start those off. So let's see. Using 449A to replace R22, is a TXV change needed? That's a good question.
Yeah, and I'll take this one, Don. So for an R22 to 449A, really the TXV is going to be the same because the mass flow rates are very similar with those 2 refrigerants, unlike 404A, where if you change from 404A to 449A, you will have to, not all the time, but you will have to look at your TXV, where you may need to change the power element of the TXV to an R22 or 449A type power element for that conversion. But for R22, you would not.
Perfect.
Awesome. Great. Thank you very much, Bobby. Let's see. The follow-up question from Mr. Tim Chamberlain is also, does changing from 404A to 449A also is a TXV change required?
Yeah, so I kind of just highlighted that in when going over the R22. So you would need to look at that more depth. It's not an every time case that you would need to change the TXV, but because the mass flow rates are very different, they're around the 25% different. So 449A is gonna may require that TXV change out.
Perfect. Good deal. All righty. Let's see. So we just got a good question from Mr. Chad Meckley. And Chad's asking, when you're using the new 454B refrigerant, if you have a leak, a lot of contractors coming into the counter are saying that you have to dump the original charge. I believe you said that you can just top it off once the repair is made. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this is a very, very, very common question that we get. Because a lot of the times people are familiar working with single component blends, so like R22, for example, or even some blends like 404A or 410A that have very low glide to it, right? Half a degree, degree and a half of temperature glide, right? Whereas R454B has about 2 degrees of glide, so it's still very small when compared to other refrigerants that you may see. For instance, it's a lot smaller than 407C, 449A, 438A, new 22B, all of those refrigerants that are out there now being serviced that you can top off for leaks. You can do that with no effects to performance the same way you would do with R454B, right? So when it comes to topping off leaks, you know, that's just how Chemours' stance on topping off leaks is that you can with those 400 series refrigerants, even the ones with larger glide.
Yeah, and I would just add, being back there when this happened to 410A and not being familiar with blends, a lot of the OEMs, if you remember correctly, stated that in their manuals, their installation manuals. If you had a leak, and I've seen guys almost go to blows on this, whether it was, you know, leaked out on vapor or leaked out on liquid, which one was more crucial as far as capacity or fractionization. But it also said pull the complete charge out and weigh it back in. It never said anything about not using the charge you weighed out. So I got talking to some of the folks that work for different OEMs now, and they were some of the people that actually wrote that, and they said to me, they go, Don, we didn't know. We were new to POE oil. We were new to these blends. So like any good tech support person does, like Bobby, I've been on many of those calls. mini splits, especially critical charge units, if you don't know where you're at, they have you pull the charge. It's one of the first things out of their mouth, right? And it's not something you want to hear, but that's typically what you do. So, in my training anyways, I've been telling them, if you go back 5 years later, just like a 410A system, you've got a leak or something like that, a small, you need to top it off. That's not uncommon for any refrigerant. Top it off. But if you're going out there 2 or 3 times, especially in a summer or a year or something like that, fix the leaks. Fix the leaks. That's what you need to do. But as far as losing capacity, it takes a little while. And Bobby's actually got some slides built up that show that really, really well. So great question.
Good deal. And Chad sends his appreciation as a follow-up one. Let's see, we don't have any other questions that are coming in right now. So if you guys do have any, toss them in there, right? We're watching, we're answering them as best as we can as they do come in. Let's see. Is there anything, Don, what's the number one question that you get when you're out in the field?
Oh, I think, believe it or not, we still get a lot of the flammability questions for sure.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of that. I don't get much on fractionalization at all. I don't get much on the AIM Act. I will say on the AIM Act, though, when we talked about some of that stuff earlier, as far as recovery and things like that with the 449 use, that is going to be a big deal moving forward. You're going to see a big movement. If you're servicing equipment right now with 404A or 507 and refrigerants like that, or even R22 medium low temp like that, you're gonna see a lot of R449 in the near future. It is very popular right now. It's a hot topic. I know the sales team says that's what's moving the most right now, because they're phasing out like those refrigerants 404A because of the high global warming potential. So that's a big one too on reclamation and learning how to do that. But I say the flammability is still number one. You always get the tool question all the time. Will my tools work? And then moving more recently is now we're past all the legal stuff. Everybody's kind of accepted it, is more the installation. So your ASHRAE 15 and 15.2 are real popular right now, going over the basic fundamentals of what they're going to ask you to do. And surprisingly, a lot of that stuff is just what we used to use as good practice now is going to be required, like purging the line after you open it up to remove that residual refrigerant. Well, that was always good practice. Now it's going to be required. Things like pressurizing the line, we've always done that. I hope you've done that. But now there's an actual time limit to hold that for 60 minutes and document that. So just a couple new things like that are really engaging for the classroom. So that's most of the stuff I see right there, the most common ones anyways.
Nice, good deal. Let's see. So we're still looking for a couple more questions to come in. We do have some time. We've got about another 15 minutes if you guys are interested. A good opportunity to ask in the question. Maybe it's not even related to this topic, right? Maybe it's just a question that your customer asked you. I'm sure across the country, customers are asking the same questions. So if you've got something you need answered, we've got tech support and we've got Don right here. So just fill it out and send it on in. I'll see it and we'll read it off. Let's see. So Don, while I was over at the recent trade show that I was at last week, we did a panel conversation with a couple good folks, OEM and reclaimers. And then at the expo over at the booth, surprisingly, one of the questions that came in was, okay, they wanted to know a little about what's happening with Washington, D.C. and the AIM Act, the reclaim management rule, stuff like that. And all across the board, the OEMs, the reclaimers, other refrigerant manufacturers and distributors like us, it was all steady forward, until there's a big announcement. Just move forward the way that it's been planned out. A lot of noise in Washington is usually just that. It's just noise. So if you are hearing weirdo stuff out there, the whole industry is just moving forward, steady as she goes. The way we've been planning for the past few years. So yeah, that's really, if you guys do get questions about Washington, D.C., just know that the rest of the industry is moving forward the way we normally would be.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I see that in a lot of chat rooms, if you will, or Facebook groups that belong to HVACR. And my answer is this: when someone asks me, is they're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. The OEMs have committed already. It's going to be too expensive to turn back it right now. So it just, as Chris said very well, just, keep focused, keep your eye on the prize. This is the way it's going down. It's not going to change. So just remember, recover your refrigerant. It's going to be like gold, right, Chris?
Yeah, exactly. Well, there are no more questions that are coming in, Don and Bobby. I don't know if there's anything you guys wanted to touch on real quick before we close out, but we have 10 minutes if you want it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go get some Mexican food. What about you, Bobby?
Yeah. Going to Chipotle right now.
Thanks for coming on, Bobby. Chris, great job. Shelly,
Thank you
awesome.
for having me, guys. All right.
All right, guys, take care.
Bye.
All right. Thank you.